The maintenance tunnels of Gateway Station smelled like recycled air and electrical work. David Chen squeezed through an access panel in Section 7, checking the environmental controls that kept this part of the station habitable for its mix of residents. The readouts showed acceptable but not optimal, typical for the cheaper districts, where maintenance got deferred in favor of more profitable areas. He was sealing the panel when he noticed her, an alien woman sitting outside a rental unit, looking exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. Her pointed ears drooped slightly, her clothes were worn, and she held a small pack like it contained everything that mattered. The door panel beside her sparked intermittently, clearly malfunctioning. David recognized the look. Gateway Station attracted people chasing opportunities, and not everyone found them. He'd seen plenty of beings hit rough patches, stuck in the cheap sections while trying to figure out next steps. The door sparked again. The woman flinched but didn't move. "Excuse me," David called, approaching carefully. "That panel looks dangerous. Mind if I take a look?" She studied him warily. "I don't have money for repairs. I'm station maintenance. Fixing dangerous electrical hazards is literally my job." He showed her his work credentials on his tablet. "No charge for safety issues. What happened?" "The lock malfunctioned. I'm locked out." She stood, moving aside. "I already filed a request. They said it would be 3 days." 3 days? Of course. Section 7 requests always got low priority. David pulled out his tools, examining the panel. Simple fix, actually, corroded connection points and a fried circuit that someone had installed wrong in the first place. "David Chen," he said, working. "What's your name?" "Lyra." She watched him work with cautious hope. "You're really just fixing it, no payment." "Payment is in my salary from the station, which isn't much but technically covers fixing broken things." He replaced the circuit, cleaned the connections. "Where are you from originally, if you don't mind my asking?" "Far from here, outer systems." She didn't elaborate. David didn't push. People came to Gateway Station to escape or to pursue, and most didn't want their histories examined. He tested the panel, watched it light up properly, keyed in a temporary access code. "There, should work now." "I'd file another request about the long-term fix, but 3 days, I know." "Yeah." David packed his tools. "If you have other issues, environmental or structural, file them. I can't promise fast response, but eventually someone will come. Probably." "Why did you stop?" Lyra asked. "Most people walk past problems that aren't theirs." David shrugged. "Most people aren't maintenance techs who see the consequences when small problems become big ones. Also, that panel was a fire hazard. Not helping would keep me awake at night." He left before she could respond, heading back to his regular route. Behind him, Lyra watched with an expression that mixed surprise with something more complicated, as if kindness without agenda was so rare she wasn't sure how to categorize it. Over the next week, David's routes kept bringing him through Section 7. Not deliberately, just coincidence. But he noticed things. The meal dispensers in Lyra's corridor malfunctioned regularly, leaving residents without easy access to food. The atmospheric controls fluctuated, making nights uncomfortably cold. Small failures that made difficult lives harder. He started fixing them. Not officially, just adjusting settings and replacing worn components during his regular rounds. Nobody noticed except the residents who suddenly found their dispensers working and their units maintaining proper temperature. Including Lyra, who began recognizing his patterns. "You again," she said, catching him outside a dispenser he'd just repaired. "This is the 3rd time this week. Station's big, lots of maintenance." David closed the panel. "Should work better now." "You're routing through here deliberately." "I'm doing my job." In the lowest priority section of Gateway Station, but she was smiling slightly. Most maintenance techs avoid Section 7. Most maintenance techs don't enjoy fixing things that stay fixed. Here, at least I know my work matters. He meant it. The executive levels had redundant systems and immediate responses. Down here, every repair actually improved someone's life. Lyra studied him. "Do you want to get food?" "The dispenser you just fixed actually makes edible options sometimes." They shared a meal from the repaired dispenser, sitting on the corridor floor because the common areas were depressing. Lyra asked about his work with genuine interest, seeming fascinated by the complexity of maintaining multi-species environmental systems. David found himself explaining the challenges of oxygen mixtures and temperature ranges. the absurdity of trying to accommodate beings with wildly different atmospheric needs in adjacent sections. She laughed when he described having to explain to a Venusian merchant that sulfuric atmosphere wasn't available on demand. "What about you?" he asked. "What brought you to Gateway Station?" "Looking for work, between opportunities." She didn't elaborate, and David didn't push. Over the following days, their encounters became routine. David would find problems to fix in Section 7, Lyra would appear with questions or observations, and they'd talk while he worked. She never offered details about her background, and he never asked. What mattered was she seemed decent, she was clearly struggling, and his help made her situation slightly more bearable. When he noticed she was skipping meals, he started accidentally ordering extra from the workers' cafeteria. "I miscalculated again," he'd say, offering containers. "Hate wasting food." Lyra accepted with reluctant gratitude, pride warring with hunger. "You're a terrible liar, David Chen. But an excellent maintenance tech. We all have our talents." The confrontation came during David's night shift. He found Lyra facing down a station security officer, the petty type who enjoyed wielding small authority over people with less power. "Violation of occupancy regulations," the officer was saying. "Section 7 is temporary housing. You've exceeded the limit. I've paid my rent. The unit is legally registered." Lyra's voice stayed level, but David could see her tension. "There are fines for extended stays. Unless we can work out alternative arrangements." The suggestion in his tone made David's jaw tight. "Is there a problem?" David stepped forward, work tablet visible. The officer turned, annoyed. "Maintenance issue. Verification issue. I've checked Section 7 registrations as part of environmental assessments. Her unit is properly documented." David pulled up records, showed them to the officer. "No violations, no fines. No arrangements necessary. You're interfering with security operations. I'm providing factual information about station systems. That's my job." David kept his voice calm, but he activated his tablet's recording function. "Unless you're claiming station maintenance records are inaccurate." The officer stared at him, calculating whether this was worth the trouble. Finally, he backed down with a warning glare that promised David had made an enemy. Once he left, Lyra exhaled slowly. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. He was abusing his authority." "You've made trouble for yourself. Won't be the first time, probably won't be the last." David checked her door panel, ensuring the officer hadn't tampered with it. "You okay?" "Why do you keep helping me?" Lyra asked. "What do you want?" "I don't want anything. You needed help. I could help, that's all." She studied him with that intense expression again, as if trying to solve an equation. "If you could have anything on Gateway Station, any position, any opportunity, what would you choose?" David thought about it. "I'd run my own repair service. Small, maybe 3 or 4 people. Do good work for fair prices. Train people who actually care about craftsmanship. Nothing fancy, just honest work and enough autonomy to do it right." Lyra nodded slowly, filing this away. "Thank you, David, for the intervention, for everything." That night, his supervisor contacted him with strange news. He'd been requested for a private maintenance contract on the executive levels. High-level work, extraordinary pay, requested by name. David was suspicious. He'd never worked the executive levels, had no connections there. But his supervisor insisted the request came through official channels. "Report to command deck tomorrow morning," she said. "And David, don't screw this up. This could be huge for your career." David went to sleep confused, not connecting this opportunity with the woman he'd been helping in Section 7, who seemed to have nothing except the clothes she wore and the small pack she carried everywhere. The command deck was a different world. Clean air, elegant architecture, staff instead of guards. David felt out of place in his maintenance uniform, following attendants through corridors he'd only seen in station diagrams. They brought him to a conference room overlooking the docking arrays. And there, wearing clothes that probably cost more than his annual salary, looking completely transformed yet unmistakably the same, was Lyra. "Hello, David," she said. "I should properly introduce myself. Lyra Castellan, CEO of Castellan Enterprises." David's brain stuttered. Castellan Enterprises, one of the 3 largest interspecies corporations in known space, owner of significant gateway station infrastructure, employer of thousands across 40 systems. But you were Section 7, words failed. I was conducting research, anonymous assessment of how Gateway Station treats its most vulnerable residents. She gestured for him to sit. I wanted to experience the station without my position and resources influencing the treatment I received. The broken door, the malfunctioning dispensers, that was all real. Completely real, also completely typical for Section 7 residents, which was the point. Lyra sat across from him. I planned to end the experiment after a week. Then I met you. David tried to process this. Everything I did, fixing your door, sharing food, standing up to that security officer, you were testing me. No, I was experiencing what Section 7 residents experience. Your help was real, David. You gave it believing I was nobody who could offer you nothing. That's what made it remarkable. People help each other, that's not remarkable. In my experience, it is, especially when the person being helped appears powerless. Lyra pulled up holographic displays showing maintenance records, environmental reports, service request logs. I've seen how Gateway Station systems fail lower-income residents, how being struggling to survive face additional burdens from neglected infrastructure. I want to fund a complete overhaul, and I want you to run it. Run what? Station-wide equitable maintenance program, full authority, Castellan Enterprises resources, your standards for hiring and training, focus on service regardless of ability to pay. She met his eyes. You told me your dream was running your own repair service, training people who care about good work. I'm offering that, but larger scale and actually achievable. David's head spun. This is because I fixed your door. This is because I watched you do the right thing repeatedly when nobody important was watching. Because you saw problems that needed fixing and fixed them. Because you stood up to petty authority when it would have been easier to walk away. Lyra leaned forward. Character like that is rare, David. I want people with that character running programs that affect millions of residents. You're trying to pay me back for basic human decency. I'm offering you a position because you demonstrated integrity without expectation of reward. Yes, your help mattered to me personally, but your character matters to me professionally. David stood, walking to the window, looking out at the massive station where millions of beings lived complicated lives. I need time to think about this. Of course, but I have to ask, if I say no, what happens? Nothing. You return to your regular maintenance work. We never speak of this again if you prefer. Lyra paused, though I hope we would continue speaking. Why? Because I spent months surrounded by people who see my position and calculate advantage. You saw someone who needed help and simply helped. That's rare enough to be precious. She stood as well. Regardless of your decision about the program, I'd like to know if you'd have dinner with me, not as CEO and potential employee, as two people who met in difficult circumstances and found something worth continuing. David turned, studying her. Same pointed ears, same direct gaze, different clothes and context, but fundamentally still the woman who'd sat on the corridor floor sharing dispensed food while he explained atmospheric controls. The program and the dinner, those are separate offers. Completely separate. You can accept one, both, or neither. And if I accept both, which version of Lyra am I having dinner with? The CEO or the woman from Section 7? She smiled, something genuine breaking through the professional presentation. The same person. I was never pretending to be someone else, David, just experiencing life without my resources as protection. The woman you met in Section 7 is who I am when power doesn't shield me from consequences. David thought about Lyra sitting, exhausted outside a broken door, about sharing meals from repaired dispensers, about her laugh when he described the Venusian merchant incident, about the security officer's casual cruelty and her quiet dignity in the face of it. I'll take the program, and the dinner. He returned to the conference table. But I have conditions. Name them. First, complete operational independence. You fund it, I run it. No corporate oversight dictating priorities. Agreed. Second, hiring authority. I choose my team based on competence and character, not connections or politics. Agreed. Third, we start in Section 7. The program's first priority is fixing the systematic neglect in lower-income areas. Agreed. Anything else? Yeah, dinner happens in Section 7 too. Workers' cafeteria, where I shared my extra portions with someone I thought needed help. Lyra's smile widened. Afraid I'll choose somewhere too expensive. Afraid we'll forget where this started. You said the woman from Section 7 is who you are without power as protection. I want dinner with that person, not the CEO who can afford whatever she wants. Then the cafeteria it is. Though I'm buying, since I can clearly afford it now. David laughed, tension breaking. Fair enough. They worked through details for another hour. Budgets, timelines, staffing plans. Lyra's business acumen was formidable, but she listened when David pushed back on operational details, respecting his expertise. The dynamic was equal, collaborative, two people with different skills building something together. Finally, as preparations wound down, David asked the question that had been nagging him. Why the test? Why put yourself through Section 7 at all? Because I needed to know if Gateway Station's problems were systemic or just poor execution. Turns out they're both. Lyra stood, looking out at the station. But I also learned that integrity still exists, that some people choose kindness when nobody's watching. That maybe the systems can be fixed, because people like you exist within them. I'm not special, Lyra. You're special enough. She turned, pointed ears catching the light, looking simultaneously like a powerful CEO and the tired woman he'd first met. 7 o'clock, Section 7 cafeteria. It's a date. Is it? I wasn't sure we'd established that. We're establishing it now. Unless the CEO of Castellan Enterprises doesn't date maintenance techs. This CEO dates people who see her as human or alien rather than as a resource to exploit, which apparently includes maintenance techs who share their lunch. She extended her hand. Partners. David shook it. Partners. He left the command deck with a head full of plans and a heart full of something that felt like hope. The maintenance tunnels waited, still smelling like recycled air and electrical work. But now they represented something different, not just his job, but his purpose. Not just fixing things, but fixing things right. And tonight, he'd have dinner with someone who understood that the smallest acts, done